So this initial meeting is just to understand and establish a purpose for us, and that will serve as a basis for us to move forward as a committee, right? So while we think and ponder on that, there is an opportunity for us to look at that in more detail later on in our discussion when we're identifying our purpose. Okay. Can you guys see my screen, by the way?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So let me see here. Getting things popping up on my screen. So here we go. All right. So let's start off with introductions. Sarah is not here yet, neither is Charles. But Timothy, since you're top of my screen, could we start with you?
Sure.
Could you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are and so forth.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Timothy Coble. I went to Miami Palmetto Senior High School in sort of like the Pinecrest area. And then I started going to Miami-Dade College for my first 2 years. And then I transferred to FIU. And that's sort of where I learned the majority of what I know. And I'm actually a recent graduate as well. I graduated 4 months ago. So now I'm working as an intern architect for ODP Architects. And they're located in Hollywood. And yeah, I've been grateful enough to learn, all that I have while working here. And
yeah,
so
fantastic.
It's been a good experience. Yeah.
Fantastic. So Tim was asked to join us on this committee because I think he is a great young architect in the making, if you will, that has a lot to contribute. And whatever it is that I'm a part of, I like to have young people, because of their way of thinking, to be part of that group. It also helps to foster leadership and help to mentor younger people alongside people with a little bit more experience, so that we can look to them later on for leadership. With that belief, we should always be training our replacement. So Timothy is a bright prospect. Recently, he was awarded the bronze medal from the AIA Florida institution. So that was a great accomplishment. I remember interviewing Timothy and was extremely impressed with him, and really wanted to hire him, and then came COVID. That messed everybody's business up, So Timothy, thank you for joining us.
Of course.
Mark?
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mark Santos, and Craig also asked me to join because of my youth. I graduated a little longer ago. It's actually been close to 20 years, but I've gotten to know Craig over the past few years. But a brief background, my training is actually in engineering, structural engineering to be specific, and even more focused, my career has been devoted to the parking and transportation industry. So for the past 20 years, between planning, design, and even through construction of planning and parking and structured projects and the related, that's kind of been my focus and love for the past 2 decades. And how I got to know Craig over the past few years was through several projects, and most recently we completed a renovation of the Wolfson garage downtown for Miami-Dade College. One of the few projects, and Craig and I stay in close touch within the AEC industry here down in South Florida. And then lastly, Craig, I'll just say, within the industry also, I serve on a few boards, but the one I'm pretty proud about is I'm currently serving as past president, so I'm on my way out, for the Florida Parking and Transportation Association. So it's a membership of about 300 people in Florida that focus on parking, believe it or not. But it's definitely something I've been proud to be a part of. And again, thanks, Craig, for thinking of me. And you don't have to worry, I'm not going to back out unless like something from left field comes out on this call. I'm very honored and appreciate you thinking of me and having me on the call.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mark's leadership, and I think his insight and just his professionalism, something that I've admired from the very first project we worked on. And I think it's important for us to not just think about architecture in a silo, but for us to reach out to other allied professions as well, because we work so closely with these guys. And that kind of relationship and collaboration has led to successful projects. If it can lead to successful projects, then I see why not it can't lead to successful committees. So bringing Mark on board was to kind of capture that level of leadership and professionalism that I've admired so much about him. All right, so with that, Maria, are you safe enough to talk with us, or you want to wait a little while first?
I'm good to go.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. I love the
Yes.
camera. All right, tell us about yourself.
Okay. Of course. Hi, I'm Maria Van Diemen. Thank you for having me. I'm actually a licensed interior designer, and I practiced down here in South Florida for about 6 years and a handful of years prior in Atlanta. But recently, I guess it isn't recent anymore, but for the past 3 years, I kind of went to the other side of the industry, and now I'm in sales with OFS Furniture. And so now I get to work with a lot of the designers and architects in the industry, which is really fun. I'm also a part of the AIA board of directors. So I've been a part of that board for about 6 years, and various event committees with them as well. So I got involved and met Craig recently, but I appreciate your leadership, and you just have a heart for helping people, which I love to see. So I'm happy to join you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your presence, most definitely. Yeah, so, Maria as well strike me with a lot of great leadership qualities. I love her way of communicating, which is very clear and precise. I think her as a face for OFS, very friendly and knowledgeable face, and just respect the way in which she carries herself. And I thought, her ideas being on other boards may be able to help us as well. Again, she's from the interior design allied profession, and we strive to work closer and closer with IIDA and other organizations such as those. So the diversity on this board was purposeful, and we want to make sure that we're hearing several voices from several industries at different ages and different ways of thinking from different backgrounds as well. If you guys can think of anyone else that you would think would be beneficial to the committee to be part of this particular committee, we welcome your recommendations and your suggestions. All right. So with that, let's move on to a report from the AIA regarding diversity within the profession. Some of this will come as news to you guys, but our profession has over 100,000 professionals. I read different numbers from time to time. Sometimes I read 113,000, sometimes I read 115,000, depending on the source. But safely to say, we are over 100,000 professionals. Of that, we have approximately 2% that are Black professionals, who identifies as Black professional. Imagine that, 115,000 people, but less than 3,000 identifies as Black professionals. And an even more woeful number than that is less than 500 professionals in the industry identifies as Black female. Imagine again, 115,000 professionals, less than 500 are Black females. We have about 13% or 14% being Hispanic. We have about 11% being Asians. And we have an even tinier percent, less than 0.1% being Native Americans. Females in the profession, only about 20%. As a matter of fact, 18% are registered architects. However, the profession consists of, when you look at everybody, licensed or not, within the architecture industry, we have about 50% who are females, but only about 18% are registered professionals, and there are many reasons for that. We'll get into some of that later on, but this is looking for that. So with that said, Timothy, can you mute your microphone?
Yes.
So with that said, we realize that we do have a problem in the profession in making it more accessible to people of various ethnicities, making it more accessible for females to become registered and to stay in the profession after leaving school. And we certainly have a lot of work to be done for when it comes on to Native Americans, when it comes on to Black Americans being part of the organization. With those woeful statistics that we have mentioned there, we have some hope, because just 20 years ago, that number was even more woeful. The profession consists mainly of white males, and you know, not that there is anything terrible about white males being dominant in the profession, but we certainly can make the profession better, I think, if we have more diversity and more inclusiveness being a part of who we are as a profession. So if we look at other industries, for instance, in the United States, if we look at music as just one example, we see how the influx of talents from various different backgrounds and ethnicities have helped to enrich that industry. If we look at athletics, if we look at the theater industry, and even Hollywood, how much richer those industries are because of their openness towards making more people become more part of those industries. They're richer for it, and I think the country is richer for it. So I have always asked myself, what are we missing out on in the architecture industry if we are not as diverse? The same thing is true for engineering, and the similar thing can be said about the interior design profession as well. So we've got to be very introspective as a group to look at our membership and to look at, as an organization, what are we doing to improve the diversity within our various organizations. It starts from our firms that we are working in, and then we look at the organizations we're associated with. And AIA Miami, by virtue of its location, we have a great number of Hispanics that are part of the membership, and we have a decent number of Caucasians as well. But we are still lacking in the presence of Black professionals and Native Americans, etc. We also have a great number of females who are part of the organization, but I dare to say we still don't have enough being members. Only about 30% of our membership consists of being females. I think that number should be a better reflection of what is in the actual industry. I think we have more than 50%, as a matter of fact, females graduating from schools of architecture. And I think we have more than 50% in our working world. So, you know, why are we not having that same number reflected in our membership? That's a question that we need to address, and we need to tackle, and we need to discuss, you know. So there are lots and lots of work to be done. First, we need to analyze the data. We need to get more information. We need to educate ourselves about what is happening. and look at the roadblocks, the pinch points, the obstacles that we can um, uh, flush out, remove, and then how can we encourage more people to come in and flood our, our membership and flood our industry to be a truer reflection of who we are as a diverse set of people.
Hey, Craig, can
Yeah.
I jump in if that's okay?
No, absolutely. Please feel free to chime in at any time.
Sure. No, thank you. Because I mean, it's, you couldn't hit it, the point any kind of further home. But, I've been thinking about, some things, in preparation for this call, just to see how, things would go. But it struck a chord when you mentioned I think you said theater, athletics, and
Music.
Hollywood and music, right? And well, I mean, that makes complete sense. And I think one of the advantages they have, and perhaps the disadvantage our industry has, is that visibility, right? People can see, I can be just like that person, or that person looks just like me. And I think we, maybe as a part of this committee, we can figure out how to get the word out, or how to get the visibility out, because I might be jumping way ahead, Greg, so if you can tell me to stop, but it's just more about, letting folks know about their options, because you don't know what you don't know sometimes. So
Absolutely.
that's just what I was thinking about as you were kind of, leading us into this piece.
No, absolutely. That's a saying that I'm known to say a lot when I'm speaking with students. You don't know what you don't know. Very, very good contribution there. Thank you for that. Yeah. So now that we have looked at, the kind of history and, just very briefly, the type of data that we're looking at in the industry, we're going to be looking to AIA Miami to give us a more precise data of the makeup of our membership and what's going on in the larger South Florida area. Our membership comes far and wide from Monroe County, from Miami-Dade County. And we need to know what the makeup of our organization is, whether that means we look at our existing information, and if we don't have that, then we need to send out surveys and so forth to establish where are we while we're working on removing roadblocks. We also need to know where we are so we can actually measure where we have started as a group, how we are progressing, know what we need to ramp up, know what we need to curb, so that we can accomplish the result that we're setting out to accomplish. We must take action. This committee will not be about talk. This committee will be about recommending actions to AIA board and to lead the board in that regard for diversity, inclusion, and I dare say equity within the profession as well, right? So that, in my opinion, is our purpose. And Tim, Maria, if you guys want to contribute anything there, please feel free to do so. I do tend to talk if there's a vacuum. So please interject at any time. I will stop and I will listen to what you guys have to contribute.
I just want to say that, I am looking forward to, I do want to join the committee, I think, and, I want to help as much as I can. I want to also do my research and figure out, the different ways that we can sort of bring those numbers up higher. I'm looking forward to being a part of it, and growing as I'm doing this as well.
Absolutely. So AIA itself, AIA National, they too have a diversity and inclusion committee, and they understand the importance of having a more the benefits of having that kind of diversity. So we do have a model, an example that we can look to in terms of policies, in terms of intentions. What I'd like to make sure that we're doing, I'm not sure how AIA National is doing this per se, because we are their hands and feet in the community. I want to make sure that we're putting into action the policies that they're bringing out, and we're also looking at our local environment, our local setting, our community here, and seeing how we can be more purposeful in dealing with our situation on a specific basis, So, for instance, we need a statement, which I have a rough statement here that says, AIA Miami Diversity and Inclusion Committee exists to promote a more diverse, inclusive, and equitable profession in the South Florida area by creating a better environment for all. Our purpose is to create actionable measures and propose it to AIA Miami Board to increase in the recruitment, retention, and even the return of a more diverse and inclusive membership, right? So recruitment in terms of education. I'm part of the BAM program, as you guys know, and the BAM program is about going into communities of color and telling students about architecture. And as Mark pointed out, you don't know what you don't know. We have found that we have spoken to over 500 students easily. That was last year's numbers. And we have spoken to dozens and dozens more since then about architecture. 90% of the students that we're interacting with have never heard about architecture before our discussion. Imagine that, 90%
Wow.
of students in the Black community have never heard about architecture before our speaker. These are students who live in a house, they go to school, parents go to their offices and their workplaces, they go to parks, malls, churches, mosques, synagogues, everywhere, and yet still they didn't know about the profession. And that is
Hey, Craig.
That is a weakness that we need to take responsibility for.
Right. No, it's very interesting. I didn't realize those numbers, but out of those hundreds, were they kind of throughout junior high and high school, or even younger?
Yes.
What were the?
So we target students between the ages of 8 to 18 years old.
Okay.
And so we go into schools, we go into churches, community centers, after school programs in communities of color. And we tell them about architecture, and we do hands-on projects that are fun and exciting and creative and so forth. We do have a web page on the AIA Miami website, and we are working on a more detailed website as we speak, because we don't believe one page can tell our story effectively. But of course, AIA Miami and MCAD is our home. And we will link to that page, and we'll ask that page to link to our website for people who want more information about what the BAM program is about. But the BAM program
Craig.
is just one small. Yes, go ahead.
I was going to ask how many individuals are generally helping to volunteer and help support the BAM program? Because I feel like there's so many people wanting to make change and wanting to make a difference. And I understand there's a lot of value in having a team that looks like they do, right? Coming out of those neighborhoods, looking as they do holds a lot of weight. But is there a way to maybe ramp up our volunteers and bring in more individuals to help grow that program?
Absolutely. And that's the intention as well. So the program is mainly run out of MC Harris' office between myself and Naomi Harrison, who co-chairs the program. We do have assistance from Jalen Harrison and from Bernice and from other people as well within the profession. We have a lot of people all over various ethnicities who have encouraged and support what it is that we're doing, and even volunteered to help us with the program. And we have had people from all ethnicities become part of workshops as well, so we do have a lot of help. However, we can do with more help. The more hands we have going out there doing the kind of things that we're doing, is the more the word will take root and go out there. Right. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Maria, because I think that is an excellent suggestion, that maybe we should hold a train the trainer type BAM program. And we have done that in other places. We have done that as far as FAMU, where we train students how to go into the community and established BAM programs. We do have a BAM Orlando program that was started here in Miami and is now being led by a BAM volunteer who started here in Miami, who is now living in Orlando. And
Great.
we do have conversations with a young lady in Tampa who would love to start a BAM program as soon as she has established herself. And we have been having a long-term conversation with Jacksonville. A parent in Jacksonville would like to start a BAM Jacksonville, but we need a champion in that area, whether in interior design, architecture, engineering, or planning, to champion the cause as a professional to do that. So the BAM program has really been reeling and wanting to go. That has to do with education, right? Which AIA, Miami, MCAD have totally invested in and given us 100% support. So we have things that are going on that are well. The Women in Architecture program that AIA Miami has also very actively been led by Elizabeth Camargo and Lorda Solera, among other wonderful leaders, Sarah, and so forth. These guys are leading that effort to get more females involved in architecture. And I think the program has been very successful in that. If you look at leadership within AIA Miami right now, it has way more female leadership than male leadership. So I think the program has been successful in that regard. We need to still, however, continue to work on that effort because it's a continuous process, you know. It never ends. And there are other measures that we need to do as well. You know, we are in a community where we do have access to Native Americans, but we haven't gone into that community to do what we have been doing in the Black community. And that's something that we need to do. Can we identify a Native American architect in our membership? I don't know. I don't know of any. That's a shortfall on my part. I should be looking at that. We are going to be looking at that and getting that champion. And if we don't have a champion like that in our membership, we are going to be recruiting for that kind of champion. And we're going to be going into those communities and talking to Native American children as well to build that pipeline to get into architecture. We're a little bit more than halfway into our meeting here. So if we have nothing else to discuss in regard to identifying our purpose, I think it has been underscored that there is lots of work to be done, and that with good and effective discipline and professional leadership, we're going to be able to make a significant impact. What we're starting out here with is something that we're laying the groundwork for future leadership and for future continuation of what we're going to be starting here, right? When this discrepancy did not occur overnight, and the solution will not be a solution that's going to happen overnight as well. With that said, we do need to establish a structure for the board. We do need a chairperson, and I think at least a secretary of some type who will record what it is that we're doing so we can report on a bi-weekly basis or a monthly basis to the AIA board as to what it is that we're doing, what is our thought process, and how do we hope to accomplish our goals and objectives. We also need to establish our goals and our objectives. That won't happen in this meeting. That wasn't the purpose of this meeting. But our next meeting, certainly, we need to look at that. We need a chairperson, we need a secretary, we need goals and objectives, and we have procedures as to how we're going to establish all of those things. So we know exactly what our mission is going to be in written form and how we're going to be putting those things in action. Again, this committee is going to be about action, not about sentiments. All right. So because we don't have Sarah or Charles on this call, unfortunately, I'm going to delay the selection of chairperson and secretary for a later date. All right. I'll be in communication with everybody via email. I'll send you over an AIA diversity and inclusion report that was done in 2016 for you to be more familiar with what's going on and the sentiments of our general membership about these issues. Just to give you some nighttime reading for you to fall asleep. In terms of a commitment for this committee, we don't want to burn anybody out. We don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed or be, stressed out by the committee. It is serious business, but also I think the networking and the camaraderie that we will develop as we go along will be worth the challenge and the effort that we put into it. I'm thinking that we'll have, monthly, or let me throw this out here. What do you guys think? How regular should we meet?
Yeah, I mean, I think monthly sounds good. I don't know if we can always change it, or we can always start with monthly and see how it flows.
Yeah,
I think it might make sense to do it every other week until we can establish those goals and establish, the core team and the core leaders. And from there, I think monthly makes sense as an ongoing basis.
I tend to agree with that, especially since we don't have Charles or Sarah, and we might have other recommendations for joining the board as well. If we have another meeting 2 weeks from now, I think that would serve our purpose a little bit better. And in that meeting, we will then discuss our goals, objectives, as well as the selection of our chairperson and secretary, right?
Yeah.
So I would make that recommendation. I think that is a good point. Do you agree, Timothy?
Sure. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. And
we don't want to lose momentum while we have it.
Right.
And what about the timing? Is noon good for you guys, or is 6 o'clock in the evening better?
I personally prefer noon, as long as we know ahead of time with a little bit of advance notice. If it was on a schedule, a regularly occurring meeting, I think that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So, okay. What about our availability 2 weeks from today, Tuesday the 11th at noon? How does your schedule look?
Works for me.
I'm good.
Yeah, sounds good with me.
I have a standing Zoom meeting, on that time. So if you want to do your own Zoom meeting, that's fine. Or if you would, Tuesday, noon is pretty popular if you want me to run the meeting. Mondays are good, but I know Mondays are usually pretty crazy days for me.
Yeah, Mondays are never a good day. Well, I can run the meeting, Colleen, if you don't mind. I do know that from time to time, Wednesdays at noon, I do have meetings as well. As you can see, on Thursdays, I do have the X-Committee there. Fridays, I do have a mentorship program, and Mondays is crazy. So Tuesdays are really the only other day that I have available. So let's at least do that for next week, and we see how we go from there. For now, let's set the 11th and then the 25th. Okay, if we can pencil those 2 days in.
And then you will set up and run the Zoom meetings.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I'll send out the invite for that. Right?
Okay.
All right, so a couple of things again, just to underline what our next meeting will be about. It's selection of chairperson and secretary, the formulation of our goals and objectives, and what else did we discuss? Yes, if you have anyone in mind that you think will benefit the committee, please send that person's name over to me. Talk to them first, of course, and then I'd reach out to them and ask them, to talk to them a little bit, and then ask them to join us. Okay. I don't believe in large committees. I don't think it's a good idea to have a committee that is too unwieldy. The saying that a camel was designed by a committee. We got to make sure that we have very decisive people who will act and get things done. And I think a smaller committee tend to be more effective in doing that, getting everybody's schedule to align and so forth. Mm-hmm. All right. All right, so with that said, thank you very much for taking time out of your lunchtime to be with us. We appreciate that very much. I hope that you guys will, I think Timothy has confirmed his willingness to be part of the committee. So as Mark. Maria, do we have your confirmation as?
Yes, I am in, Craig.
I love that. I love that. Good. So we'll hear from Charles soon, and then we'll hear from some other people as well as you send your recommendations in. I think a committee of not more than, let us say, 5, maximum 6 people is more than enough. I think 4 people can easily be part of a very effective committee as well. I must say right away that it is not my intention to chair this committee, so that can be off the board immediately. We want other leadership and we want other people to be able to rise to the challenge. I'm chairing several other boards as well as leading a firm. So I will be here. I will be at every single meeting. You'll hear my voice and the drum beating way before you see me, of course. But I want to make sure that unless we have no choice, I'd rather not be chair of this particular committee, but to be part of the committee and to help with its success. All right.
Very good.
Wonderful.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Colleen. And